Summit and Destiny have met 7 times before. Tonight is number 8.
Tennessee Volunteers have wrapped up an SEC outright regular season title. Connect with
the SEC runs through Rocky Top. Tennessee wins the SEC regular season crown for the 2nd consecutive season.
the 1-0. Indiana, right center field. Cross on the move. Rock it there. Tennessee walks it off. It's a mismatch. Deep three. Come on now. And don't connect. Rocky Draghi this time. Indeed. New hand jam. Down the middle. Got it. The fly is high and again. And he's going to take it. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Hey, how much fun is this?
Man, Rocky Top, this is college football at its absolute best.
It's college athletics at its absolute best, man. Welcome into another episode of the VFL Fanatics Show. I'm Michael, my co-host Skylar. Skylar, man, how we doing on this July the 10th?
Dude, come on now. It's middle of summer. Had the 4th of July last weekend, so happy 4th of July to everybody. Kind of busy at work. Could be better, could be worse, obviously, but no, man, life's good. It's hot. I actually kind of wish it would cool down just a little bit, but we're gonna ride the wave because I know once it gets cold again, I'm gonna wish for these hot days again. You know how it is. It's like the ever-ending cycle. So no, man. Overall, we're doing well, Michael. How are you?
Doing pretty well. As you said, busy time of year between 4th of July. It's Prime Week right now, so Amazon is busy as crap right now.
Forgot about that. Yeah, how was your job?
Lots of routes, man. So a lot of stuff we got to go through at work, but no, it's going good. Everything in life is going good, and we get to talk Tennessee football, man.
That's exactly right. And before we do that, I do want to let you guys know who our presenting sponsor is, and that is Chris Smith Insurance. As a homeowner, Chris Smith was once let down by an insurance company. So he started his own agency where instead of feeling like a big company is fighting against you, you'll know that your agent is fighting for you. All insurance is not equal. Trust the Chris Smith Insurance today. Give him a call at 865-272-3387 right here in Oak Ridge. Again, guys, Chris isn't just going to find you the best rates. Even though it is all about saving money, Chris is going to find you the best rates for the best coverage so that if something ever does happen to your home, you don't really have to doubt that insurance will cover it or not. That is what he does. He's done it for so long, and he's an avid supporter of the VFL Fanatics Show, so we can't thank him enough. Michael, I'm going to go ahead and drop the hammer. All right. We had some exciting news, but unfortunately, I just got off the phone with him about 45 minutes ago. Malik Foreman will not be on tonight. However, asked to be on next week. So if life happens, I ain't worried about it. He apologized. He felt bad. And I do too, because we kind of pumped this out for 2 weeks now of him joining, but he will. He will join next week, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I am sorry to the viewers that tuned in expecting to see him tonight. Will not be happening, but that's okay. We still have 3 great segments that we're going to talk about, starting, I'm assuming, with a position preview that we've been doing, the second part of the series, right? We're in the second week of the series. And Michael, give us the rundown, man. What's the 3 segments?
Yeah, so today's rundown in segment 1, we are going to be looking at the offensive line group for this coming year. Lots of turnover, lots of new faces, faces that we hadn't seen on a regular basis, but might be experienced to the team. Also, some new faces that have not been on the team before as well. Right. So we'll go through the unknowns there. Segment 2. Vanderbilt, you missed out on week 1 for schedule predictions, but week 2, here we are. Vanderbilt's going to be segment 2. Segment 3, we're going to look at the Oklahoma schedule for the upcoming season. So that's a rundown. Before we get into all of that, I would like to give you our segment 1 sponsor, and that is Optimal Asbestos Services. Hospital Asbestos Services offers detailed asbestos inspections and air quality assessments. Whether you're looking to secure your home or workplace, you can trust Optimal Asbestos Services to deliver thorough and reliable solutions. You can contact Jeff Mull at 865-223-3297 for your consultation today, or you can go on the web at optimalasbestosservices.com. So, offensive line. Skylar, I'm just gonna be real upfront with you about it, and with all of our listeners here. I've got a lot of questions.
Why, dude? Is it because they're young? Is it because they're inexperienced? Is it all the above? Is it because of lack of depth? Because let me tell you, that's one thing that I think alarms me when just doing a quick look at the roster of the offensive line position.
Yeah, I think it's all the above, especially
Fair enough.
especially the lack of stability at positions. You know, we've been able to count on guys like Cooper Mays, being the focal point of that offensive line over the last several years. Cooper Mays is gone now.
Right.
You're not going to have him at center to man that offensive line anymore. You're not going to have a guy like Javonte Spraggins at the right guard position to fill it. You're not going to have a guy like Dane Davis on the offensive line that, even though, he wasn't the best guy on the offensive line game in and game out, he was a consistent guy that you could plug and play anywhere, and you felt confident with that. You've got some unknown there. You've got some young guys. You've also got some experienced guys that are transfers but haven't been in this offense. And then you've got just a couple of guys that have been here as well. So who do you want to talk about first on the offensive line?
I think on the offensive line, I kind of want to talk about the battle at the center position.
And this is something that we didn't know if it was going to be a battle because nobody was picked up out of the transfer portal at a strictly center position.
It kind of worries me a little bit. I was kind of hoping that William Satterwhite would just take the reins, right? I mean, I think that's what we were hoping. But maybe it's a good thing that there is kind of a little bit of battle there. Maybe they're pushing each other. Of course they are. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Who is the position or who is in the running? I think it's a 3-way race.
I think it's a 3-way race. You mentioned William Satterwhite. That's the guy that we all thought was going to be the center coming into this season because there was no guys that were picked up out of the transfer portal that
Right.
was, just a strictly center coming in. So it's going to be between him. It's going to be, I believe, Wendell Moe Jr. from Arizona. I think I've heard his name thrown around, but the main name that I have heard thrown around that's battling for the center position is Sam Pendleton, the transfer from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm looking like Wendell Moe is actually going to be the left guard. Left tackle is going to be Lance Hurd, of course. Wendell Moe looking to be the left guard, but at the center, yeah, it could be Pendleton. It could also be William Satterwhite, we mentioned. And Vyson Lang, he's gone. He was your backup last year. I don't know. Maybe it's just a 2-dog race then there. And then we kind of have another question mark at right guard. Right tackle, I think
right tackle has got to be David Sanders,
I
is it
think-
not? With Larry Johnson
You don't-
transferring out in the spring portal, is it not? I mean, how is it not going to be David Sanders? And if it is not David Sanders,
Bennett Warren?
maybe. But what I was getting at, if it's not David Sanders, is there a red flag that he is not the starting right tackle?
I think so. I think with the hype that he had coming out of recruitment and the hype around him in the spring. Now, obviously, they're on the way back. Media days is coming up next week. If David Sanders doesn't take over that right tackle position, it's alarming only for the sense of he came in to be that guy, and you need him to be ready for the depth sake of it. Logan in Facebook, we're not ignoring you, big dog. John Campbell Jr. is out the door, big dog. He is graduated. He is gone. Sam Pendleton is a dog, and
I agree with that.
yeah,
I agree that Sam Pendleton is a dog, and he's a guy that can play multiple positions. It just concerns me the fact that we were so confident that William White, this is the guy. In the program, they were saying, yeah, we're confident in Satterwhite to be the center after Cooper Mays is gone. And then now we're talking about a position battle at center. What does that say for Satterwhite? Or let's look on the other side of it. What does that say for Pendleton? Does that mean that he's maybe a better center than he is a offensive guard? Because he's an interior offensive lineman. All right, let's look at it the other way. Is this position battle a good thing? Does this mean that Sam Pendleton is a good enough center that he's battling for that position with Satterwhite?
Yeah, it could be. Rhonda actually pulls up, I mean, a great point. She would be worried if we lose David Sanders if he doesn't win the starting job. And the way the contracts are, I don't know how much easier it's going to be for these guys to just up and leave. But as of right now, they can. And yeah, like even if David Sanders understands that he's not putting in the work to become the starter, or maybe just isn't ready yet, like guys, at the end of the day, the kid's 18. Yeah, like we have seen Josh Heupel in the past not want to play those younger players. I will say this: last year, I felt like we did a lot better doing that. From the wide receiver position, we see Mike Matthews a lot. Now, obviously, we wanted to see him more, but I think you still had to credit, obviously Brew, Dante, Squirrel. Even though Squirrel didn't have his best year, I mean, the kid gave you the 2 years before that all he could for Tennessee. So you had to respect that in his third year. But yeah, Mike Matthews coming in. You have Boo Carter. I know freshman linebackers been playing a key role for Heupel. Arion Carter got a lot of playing time 2 years ago. So I'm seeing our coaching staffs play freshmen more often. So I think I do have the hope that David Sanders, as long as he's talented enough, as long as he's picking up on the offense enough, that he should be able to win that. But as far as the center position, I love that it's a battle. I think it's a good thing. It's going to build depth overall, and depth is something that we're going to need in this position room, because I'm telling you right now, I think I have a comfortable 1 deep at every position. When you start talking about going 2 deep, I get really nervous. I don't really know where to plug and play these guys. Whereas on the defensive line that we talked about last week, I could go 3 deep, just like we did last year, and feel just fine with it. And so you're seeing it a little bit in this year's recruiting class too, which, by the way, we're cooking. If you haven't noticed the last week or so, we've been picking up quite a bit of recruits. But once again, we are super defensive heavy. And I love that. I think the standard at Tennessee is to be elite on defense. I'm quoting Josh Heupel there. But I am getting a little bit worried about our lack of recruits and recruitment on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so here's what I will also say. As far as the depth goes, what concerns me about the depth is we don't have a lot of proven depth. We don't have a lot of guys that have taken meaningful snaps. What I do like is that we have a lot of young talent that is there. I mean, the talent is definitely there. It's just a lack of experience, which leads into that, as Skylar mentioned, the unknown and the concern for that lack of depth. I mean, I'm just going to name a couple of guys that are either redshirt freshmen or true freshmen that I've got a lot of confidence in to step in at some point and make a name for themselves. Maybe not this year, but down the road. You've got guys like Jermias Hurd, a redshirt freshman, that I feel like could step in and could be a big name. And Tony Aguimoro, that was a big recruit from this past season cycle that I've got a lot of confidence in down the road as well. You've got Bennett Warren, a redshirt freshman that I do think could step in and play some snaps this year. You got redshirt junior Gus Hill that I feel like is going to have to step in and take some of those reps as they come, because he is one of the more experienced guys, at least as a roster standpoint goes. You've got Max Anderson, redshirt freshman, Jesse Perry, redshirt freshman. You've got Nick Moore, a very talented true freshman that I'm excited about for the coming years. You also got Gage Ginther, redshirt freshman offensive lineman. And then you've got Shamarad Umarov, that is a redshirt sophomore that came from Denmark that I feel like is going to be another one of those guys, kind of like we were talking about last week with Emmanuel Okoye, that I feel like he's got the athletic ability, but is his football knowledge there yet? Are the skills quite there yet? So that's going to be something to watch for. So a lot of young talent there, but unproven talent, which leads to those red flags that we're talking about for this coming year with that depth.
Yeah, and I think if we were building out right now, let me catch up on these comments real quick. Yes, Rhonda, I believe it would be a rippling effect for sure. And I think you've seen that in the past in this coaching staff as well. Logan does say that David Sanders showed a lot of potential in the orange and white game. And T-Lander, I think I agree with this, is going off this year. He's all over the field. And one thing that I want to back that comment up even further about T-Lander is Coach William Inge. Hearing great things about what he's doing in just his second year here. But what he's doing in that room. We just landed, by the way, guys, a little bit of recruiting update. We just picked up the second linebacker of our class that is the top 5 at the position. We have 2 linebackers signed right now in our class. 2 of the top 5 linebackers in the class of 2026. William Inge is putting together a great recruiting class just in his second year again, guys. And then what he's also doing with the guys that he's already had, like he's got. Look, I'm expecting big years out of Arion Carter, T-Lander, you name it. It's going to be huge, and he's building depth there. And what I love about starting with Syracuse is I think that is a game. I think that we are going to win by multiple touchdowns. I think it's going to be a second half where we can actually see some of these guys. Now, obviously, is it week 2 that we play? No. We don't play Georgia week 2. We play in week 3.
We play Georgia in week.
So we'll at least get to figure out where these guys.
3, yeah.
We at least get to figure out where the pecking order is of this offensive line here in a little bit. Gus Seal didn't go to Fayetteville. He was pretty decent.
He did.
He sure did. Let's see. Rhonda comes in. We appreciate you guys tuning in, by the way, more than y'all know. If we can hold on and compete this year, watch out for the next couple of years. Could be explosive in a good way for us. Absolutely. But look, if I'm putting together the offensive line right now, I think I have a 2 deep. I think I have a 2 deep for the most part. And here's what it looks like. I've got starting left tackle Lance Hurd. He's the junior, obviously, the transfer from LSU. I agree
with you.
I've got starting left guard. I've got Wendell Moe, the transfer from, was it Arizona?
Yes.
All right.
I agree with you.
I've got center. I'm going to chalk it up to William Satterwhite. I'm going to say that he beats out Sam Pendleton for the center. But I think that's just going to put Sam Pendleton at right guard.
I agree.
So
yes.
I think that's what's going to happen. William Satterwhite's been there. I'm just going to go ahead and give him the lean. And until he gives a reason to not be there, I think he deserves it. So Sam Pendleton will be the right guard. And then, of course, right tackle will be David Sanders. That's who I have as the starting. As of right now, guys, we haven't even seen fall camp. So I'm kind of just shooting off the cuff here. But then the 2 deep to that would be, I think I would have Bennett Warren and I think Jeremiah's Hurd as your 2 deeps on the tackles. You've got Sham Uberoff, Gage Ginther as your 2 deep on the guards. Sam Pendleton, if healthy, would be your backup center for sure. But then don't count out Brian Grant and Jesse Perry as depth pieces as well. So, I mean, I guess when you look at it, we are 2 deep at the offensive line position, but I don't know if you're going to win games. I don't know if you're going to push the defensive line back in the SEC with some of the guys that we have in the 2 deep.
I don't know if you're confident in that 2
Right,
is
right.
what we're getting at.
Yeah, the
But
lack of playing time, the lack of experience, I'm not sure. So
yeah, but let me throw a different scenario because I completely agree with you as far as especially the starting offensive line. I think that's what we're going to see in week 1 whenever we play against Syracuse. But let me throw a wrench into that a little bit.
okay,
Let's just say that William Satterwhite is
doesn't
not
win
the
it.
starting center. You
Yeah,
got Sam Pendleton starting or Sam Pendleton starting at center. Who is your right guard?
it's either Sham or Jesse Perry, Sham Umarov. As of right now, maybe I don't know. Who do you have in mind?
So here's what I'm thinking as far as
Bennett
that.
Warren.
I was going to say I think that at that point you would move Wendell Moe over to the right side. Because I don't think you want to have a true freshman in David Sanders and then a redshirt freshman in a Bennett Warren, a Jeremiah Hurd, or somebody like that, or even a Shamrad Umarov who has little to no experience in a game type situation. I don't know if you want 2 of those on the same side, which is why I think you would move Wendell Moe over to the right side there. And then you plug one of those other guys into the left offensive guard position.
Okay. Well, I do know that Perry's been showing out. So if William Satterwhite doesn't win the center position, I don't think it's the same way as if he won it. You know how I would just say Sam Pendleton would just kick out to right guard. If William Satterwhite doesn't win the center position, I don't think you see William Satterwhite kick to right guard.
No, because I think this William Satterwhite is there for center. I don't think that I don't think that he is got the skill set as an offensive guard necessarily.
So Perry's been getting a lot of buzz. Sham's getting a lot of buzz. So look for fall camp. We're going to be locked into this position battle. I think more than any other position, solely because I think it's the most crucial. It doesn't matter how good Joey Aguilar is or not if he doesn't have time to throw the ball. And
so
our running game is not good at all if we don't get a push on the front. So I think the offensive line is the most important group this fall.
Yeah, it's definitely the most important. And I know we're just now starting to look at the position groups, but other than quarterback, would you say this group right here has the most question marks of any group on this roster?
I would say even with quarterback in play, I still think this is the most question mark.
I think I agree with you.
Because I think we know what we have in Joey Aguilar.
I think we know what we have.
I guess at quarterback is what we don't know. But I think Joey Aguilar, you're going to have fireworks. You're going to have turnovers. You just got to hope the fireworks outnumber the turnovers.
But you know what? I think that
Josh Heupel's proven to cut down on turnovers.
Yeah, I think that we know what we're going to get, whether it be Joey Aguilar, George McIntyre, or Jake Merklinger at quarterback. You're going to get. Jake. I was going to say, I think that you're going to have a guy that is, willing to run the ball when needed. They can hit the short stuff, and none of those guys are afraid to take the deep shot. I mean, you can see that from the game film for Merklinger and for McIntyre in high school. You could see that from the game film of seeing Joey Aguilar at Appalachian State.
This is where I have the most faith in whatever quarterback we choose. Josh Heupel's proven to do a lot with less at the quarterback position.
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason why I say that is you realize the least production Josh Heupel statistically in the history of his coaching career, the least amount of production he got out of the quarterback position was literally Nico.
Yeah.
The 5-star from California. So
yeah,
I think you've seen what he did with a 3-star in Hendon Hooker, right? He found the right place, found the right vibe. Joe Milton was a 5-star, right, that went to Michigan, but was god-awful. Let's just be honest. He kind of still was early on at Tennessee, and I think the kid ended up being okay. He made mistakes, but I think the offense kind of made him a little bit worse because they want them to throw the deep shot, and some quarterbacks just don't have that type of accuracy going long.
Look, I don't want to cut you off here, but I also have a take about Joe Milton. Now, I believe I've said before, but Joe Milton was a very good quarterback that improved quite a bit over his time at Tennessee. That would have been an absolute freak of a
And-
quarterback his senior year if he had wide receivers that could create separation, because even Hendon Hooker, if he had the wide receivers that Joe Milton did in Joe Milton's final season at Tennessee, he wouldn't have been as good because Hendon Hooker had wide receivers that could create separation. So it made Hendon Hooker's life easier. Now, Hooker could also put the ball on a dime whenever he needed to. Milton could also do it too, to an extent. But when you're literally having to throw the ball into tight coverage every single time,
Yeah.
it's going to make you look a lot worse than what you really are.
Go ahead, and the last thing I'll end on this, because this is the offensive line preview, but add Joe Milton to the Jarrett Garantano underappreciated but decent to great VFLs down the road.
Absolutely.
As far as quarterbacks that are proud to be where they are, and if you don't understand what I'm saying, look, just to get on socials and look at what Jarrett Garantano is posting about the team nowadays. Like, just he's following us. He loves the University of Tennessee. He is blasting it on all of his socials. And then if you look at Joe Milton just had a workout with one of our newest signees, one of our newest commits, which I think is the coolest thing ever. And but as a player, Joe Milton gets very underappreciated for how he performed. Obviously it was frustrating during the season to go 8-4 because it felt like a massive step back. But overall, his love for the University of Tennessee, to be able to be here for 3 years, sit for 2 years of that after getting his job yanked away. But Logan comes in and says, do we give Pruitt his flower for finding Hendon? As much as he hated typing that.
So I guess to an extent you could say that, but I'm still going to give all the credit to Hendon for sticking around.
You got to.
Pruitt left.
And you got to credit, I think, in my opinion, you got to credit Heupel.
Yeah.
Because Hendon had the exact same problem. I think this is what gives me a little bit of chills, man. Hendon had the same problem Joey Aguilar had. Electric player, but boy, was he reckless with the football at Virginia Tech. And I don't know. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I think Joey Aguilar is going to be good. But again, none of that matters without the offensive line coming together as a unit, staying healthy through fall camp and through the season. Because, man, I'm telling you, it gets a little uncomfortable when one or two guys go down on this unit. And it's going to happen. It is the offensive line. You're going to have somebody go down.
Yeah, and I will say, Tennessee has been blessed over the last few years to have little to no injuries on the offensive line. But
we had tough
you
kids.
cannot. You also did have tough kids, but you cannot count on that every single year. You're going to have injuries.
That's right.
Every single person, by the time you get halfway through the year, they've got some sort of injury. It's just a matter of, can I play, or is it bad enough that I can't play? So really, I'm really excited to see what we have this year at the offensive line, but I'm super nervous about it as well.
I heard that. I think that about does it for our offensive line preview. Do you got anything else in closing? It looks like we got an okay too deep. And I think we have the starting lineup. I know there's still questions out there at the center position and the right guard position, but I think literally that works itself out, literally within the two guys that are competing for it. I think William Satterwhite's going to come out in center position, maybe even if he's just a tad bit, I would use the term worse than Pendleton, but you just slide Pendleton over and it almost knocks two birds with one stone as the coaching staff to make sure you got your starting lineup field right there at the offensive line positions. And then you just kind of work on the depth piece. You're going to see, in my opinion, I think you're going to see people rotate on the offensive line, at least early on in the season, kind of like you do on the defensive line. It's not going to be that exact, dramatic, but maybe one quarter you'll see a guard getting some work in, and then the next quarter or the next half you'll see them kind of flip-flop just to kind of get some film in, and then they can kind of evaluate at practice and film study and see who can come up. Because I do think these position battles are going to go into the season. But
I completely agree. Now, I will say you are going to have to try to find that starting rotation pretty quick because you get Georgia in week 3.
Yeah.
And it's arguably the toughest game on the schedule. I won't say the biggest game on the schedule, but it's arguably the toughest game on the schedule that, if you don't have your offensive line rotation or your offensive line, set at that point, it could be a long, long game for Tennessee in that one.
100%. Rhonda chimes in, says, we aren't the only team this year that has a lot of unproven talent. No, we're not. But we're also not that team that's been bringing in top 10, top 5 recruiting classes year after year either. Heupel's been doing good, not great. Right now I think we're sitting just outside the top 10 in this year's recruiting class, but Heupel's been consistent top 15 in his recruiting classes. So we're going to just need to continue to develop and make sure we're getting the right guys in here and taking it. Yeah, I think she's right as well. Toughest will be at the Swamp. And here's one thing that I think works to our advantage. It's late in the season. Florida's got one of the toughest schedules in the nation. Are they reeling at that point? Now, obviously, they're still going to give their all because it's Tennessee coming to the Swamp. But here's where I also think it helps us. Usually when we go into the Swamp, it's September. It's like 110 degrees. In November, hopefully it won't be that hot. I think that helps aid to our, because the humidity down there is insane. Maybe the playing conditions kind of work in our favor just a little bit. But either way, it's going to be good. Georgia, Logan says Georgia has some crazy wideouts this year, and Stockton seems to be promising. So I don't know about that one. It's up to the D-line to harass the line of scrimmage, and I think they will. I think our defensive line is going to be fine. Gunnar Stockton, I think, is going to be fine just because Kirby Smart is his head coach. So I'm not going to bet on him not being good. Look, at the end of the day, Tennessee's got to go get it. Look, the goal is 10-2. Period.
Yep.
The goal is 10-2. 10-2 gets you into the playoff. We did it last year. We've seen that the way these schedules are made, teams are going to knock each other out. Period. So 10-2 and 10-2 gets you where you do one thing, at least one thing this year that you've never done under Heupel. 2?
Yeah. You got to not lose to a team that you
supposed
should
to
beat.
win on the win. So beat Mississippi State.
Yeah. And then the other one, you beat one of Alabama on the road, Florida on the road, or you
Georgia
just beat Georgia.
Period.
Yeah.
Because you haven't done it. So, yes, you're right. So, you have to do 2 things that Josh Heupel's never done to get that done. And I think that would be a successful year, in my opinion. 100%. I think this year the defense is going to carry the offense again, but we'll see. But no, man. Michael, you got anything before we wrap this thing up and go on to segment 2 where we get to talk some predictions?
Let's go ahead and hit some predictions. You want to give us our segment 2 sponsor?
Dude, you already know it. It is P&L Business Services. We know firsthand that getting your monthly reporting, invoicing, bill pay, taxes, and other essential business services right is critical. That's why at P&L Business Services, we go beyond bookkeeping by providing you with everything you need in your back office so you can have your time back and the peace of mind to do what you love most, which is building your business. Behind every successful business is a great bookkeeper. Guys, they are located right here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. If you are focused on a business, but you are just absolutely swamped in paperwork, give these folks a call or go online to pnlbusinessservices.com. They will get you taken care of so you can keep focusing on that great customer service that you provide. We appreciate your support, and we're talking predictions. What team? Vanderbilt? Vandy boys?
Vanderbilt is first. Let me get their schedule pulled up. Bam, there we go.
Let's get it. Oh, I want to go first.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know why I want to go first, but I want to go first.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So
look at the cupcake start of a season that Vanderbilt has, by the way.
Minus one team.
South Carolina. But I mean,
yeah.
It's still relatively cupcake. I mean,
yeah, you get Charleston Southern to start the season. Then you go to was it Blacksburg, Virginia, I think.
Oh yeah. Virginia Tech was the worst team in the ACC last year.
Blacksburg, Virginia.
I think they'll flip the script a little bit for Virginia Tech. But for Vanderbilt's sake, I hope they. Oh nope, I'm a newbie at this. I'm so sorry, but I still think that they get the win here. But yeah, South Carolina at South Carolina. Oh, I mean, I know it's my turn to pick, but we both probably agree that they ain't beating South Carolina with Lenore Sellers healthy, right?
Correct.
And I think the reason here is Vanderbilt's defense. If we can be honest, I don't care how good Diego Pavia is. Vanderbilt's got to figure out something on the defensive side of the ball. They are god awful. They could have. I'm not gonna say should have. They could have choked the lead against Alabama because of how atrocious their defense was in that second half. So they're gonna have to figure out something on that side of the ball. I'm gonna give South Carolina the dub here, and then they go. They host Georgia State. And I do think they get the win there. And then they host Utah State. Again, another cupcake. Vanderbilt starts the season 4-1 going into October, going to Tuscaloosa. T-Town for the revenge.
So here's the question. Is this where it all falls apart?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, no. I did it again. I think so. One Alabama's going to be ticked off about that game last year, right? So I think going into T-Town and pulling an upset, if Clark Lee can do it, Kalen DeBoer's fired. Nah, you can't even question it. You can't even question it. If he loses to Vanderbilt his first 2 years at Alabama, I do not care if they win every other game on the schedule.
With you on that, yeah.
There is no shot, dude. So I think that's an L. All right, just being honest. Here's where I'm confused. LSU is a team that confuses me every year. I think they're a good offense every year, but again, their defense is so bad. You could see LSU post up 45 points in a game and still lose. We've seen it numerous years against Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas A&M, you name it. So could Vanderbilt, with the offense that they have, if they're going to be decent, by the way, I don't know if Pavia's got the weapons around him to make that possible. But obviously, he's a playmaker. So I'm going to say that they're not going to get it done. God, I'm really bad at this. I'm going to say they're not going to get it done. I'm going to say LSU is going to get the win. But I think it's more because Brian Kelly needs it. Brian Kelly's kind of coaching for his life right now. So, and I know that's a little bit dramatic because he's on a contract, but if Brian Kelly goes 8-4 or 9-3 again for like the fourth year in a row, I just don't see Baton Rouge being at ease with it, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
No, I totally agree with you on that. You know, if you remember, we did our hot takes not too long ago, and my number one hot take was the fact that Garrett Nussmeier would not be the starting quarterback by the end of the season, which you didn't feel like was much of a hot take. But then I added in Brian Kelly will be fired at the end of the year, which says one of two things. One, LSU probably was pretty bad this year. And two, other coaches need to be looking out because Brian Kelly has been fairly successful for most coaches' view on things, or most schools' view on things. You know, in his first season, he went to the SEC championship game in the worst year that the West has had in quite some time. But, he's had a pretty good record overall, but for LSU type standards,
it's not good enough.
It's not good enough.
It's not good enough. But Rhonda said Pavia will have a warm welcome in Neyland. Logan brings up, let's see if they run this year, the next couple, F Pavia. Talking about Vanderbilt running Tennessee or Nashville, running, the SEC runs through Nashville. Whatever he said. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see. Logan said, wonder if they put Vandy ranked in the top 15 when it comes to when they get that 4-1 start. I don't think that's going to happen.
I do think that it could be possible that Vanderbilt's in the top 25 at that point, depending on
maybe in the top
everybody
25
else looks like.
At 4-1. I think that's valid.
But nah, top 15. Now, if they start the season off 15, or if they start the season off 5-0 after beating South Carolina,
yes, 5-0.
Yeah, you might be knocking on the door of a top 15. You have to.
Yeah, because, I think people are ranking or at least predicting South Carolina to be a decent team this year. So, yeah, I think that would be a good win. I think Virginia Tech's going to be better than what they were last year, so I think that's an okay win. But, yeah, if you start the season 5-0, yeah, sure, give them the ranked matchup. They deserve it at that point. But that's a good way to look at it. Logan, we appreciate you guys being here. But anyways, we're going to keep on going. Missouri is another tricky game because I don't believe Missouri. I know that Eli Drinkwitz has been, like, last year was a very underachieving year, a very quiet year, but Missouri is still acquiring talent. So, like, Missouri roster-wise, I think is a pretty decent team this year. But I still don't believe in their coach, period. And this is even back when they went 11-2 2 years ago. I think that was a fluke year. I'll just be honest with you. I don't think that's Eli Drinkwood's year to year. Could Missouri choke this game? Yes, I think so. Am I going to predict it? Yeah, I am. Who is Missouri's quarterback?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Who's the wide receiver? Who's the running back? I don't know to any of those three questions.
Now, I don't know the name of the running back, but I do know that they did get another running back that kind of went along the same path as Cody Schrader from a couple years ago. Came through that JUCO type path.
Come on as a walk-on, earn a scholarship.
So I do think that they're going to have a pretty decent running back if he ends up like Cody Schrader. But as far as
I'm not
the
going to predict anybody to end up.
No, I agree. But as far as the running back and the quarterback goes right now, I don't know. I will do more research on Missouri by the time we get to them. But at this moment, I don't know who that is.
Fair enough. I'm going to give Vanderbilt a bone against Missouri. I think they get it just because in the gauntlet, I don't think they're going to lose 5 straight. So I'm going to give them a bone here against Missouri. I'm going to go loss against Texas. I don't feel like I really have to explain that one that much. We're going to move on to Auburn. This is another one that I kind of put Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina-ish. Kind of like on the same. Kentucky, I would even throw Kentucky in this one, even though I think Kentucky's a really bad team. I am going to give Auburn the win here. I think Vanderbilt loses to Auburn. Again, this could be completely wrong because this could be Hugh Freeze is already fired at this point. Who knows? But if they do figure it out, I think Auburn could be a dangerous team. Even though the recruiting rankings out of the high school ranks looks god-awful right now at Auburn, their transfer portal rankings were pretty good. So Auburn's kind of pulling an Ole Miss here, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. But I do think Auburn may find a way to pull a win here. And I'm not necessarily believing in Clark Lee and Vanderbilt pulling an 8-4 type season. So I got that as a loss for Vanderbilt. Kentucky. I think they're going to beat Kentucky. Kentucky's god-awful. I don't think they have any hype going into this year. We predicted this. We predicted this last week. Where's Kentucky going with their program? They settled for mediocre for so long that now the mediocrity is now underperforming, and they don't want to get rid of him because he's the longest tenured head coach, the highest paid head coach over that tenure, sort of, kind of, not really, but you get what I'm getting at. And they're kind of stuck with Stoops. So I don't know. But then at the end of the year, Tennessee, you already know it. They ended on a loss. I've got Vanderbilt going 6-6, a bowl game. Congratulations, Vandy. Not a great back half of the season, albeit, but the schedule's not easy. You've got Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, LSU, and South Carolina. South Carolina, I do think it's going to be a decent team this year. So,
yep.
Nope. I got Vanderbilt going 6-6 with another loss to Tennessee.
What's your ceiling and floor for this?
Ceiling and floor. Team? Ceiling and floor. I like the ceiling being they get the win over Auburn. They get the win over Auburn.
At LSU?
No. Maybe South Carolina. So I'm gonna go ceiling here, 8-4. And then the floor, I'll say they lose to Missouri. I think their floor is. I think it's fair to say 4-8, maybe. No.
So
4-8. No, because you got Charleston Southern, Utah State, Georgia State. That's 3 immediately right there. You got Virginia Tech. Ugh. Virginia. I'm gonna stick with 4-8. Yeah, I think 4-8's their floor. But yeah, 4-8. I'm done.
So respectable, 4-8, 6-6, 8-4.
2 games here.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, 2 games there.
Yeah, I can see that. So, but before I give my predictions on it, we'll kind of briefly talk about Vanderbilt for just a minute. Obviously returning Diego Pavia at quarterback. We all know the comments that he made and all that stuff. Diego Pavia last year threw for almost 2,300 yards. He also rushed for just shy of 1,000 yards. He was their leading rusher, obviously leading passer.
I think he was the leading receiver too.
I'm
joking.
It's
It was
funny.
a
I
joke.
was
It was
looking at that. I thought that he might have at least one reception, but he actually does not. I will say they do return they do return the best tight end in college football in Eli Stowers. He was there, or Stowers, however you say his name. Because if I answer Wolfie saying they're going to drop. Kentucky might not score 10 points on Tennessee this year.
Hang on. My Sid from the Ice Age, they do this every year. Sorry. All right, go ahead. Keep on
That's
going.
great. But anyway, Eli Stowers, he's the best returning tight end in college football this year. He was the leading receiver for Vanderbilt last year with 638 yards receiving. Had 5 touchdown receptions on the year as well. They are returning their second leading rusher in Cedric Alexander. He's coming back this year, but he only rushed for 610 yards last year. I do kind of attribute that to Vanderbilt's offensive line because Diego Pavia was on his back a lot last year. And I do think some of that you can blame Diego Pavia for that because he would try to make plays happen with his feet. He was all the time getting hit. He's one of those quarterbacks that doesn't like to give himself up. He's trying to get that extra yard, which I respect him for that. He's an absolute warrior on the field whenever it comes to that. But as a quarterback, you got to know at times when you need to give yourself up to protect yourself. And I think that's one reason why, Vanderbilt started hot. Granted, a lot of that was because of mistakes that Tennessee made, but they started hot against Tennessee, but couldn't keep it up because Diego Pavia couldn't do anything. No. He wasn't athletic enough at that point because he was just beaten and broken by the time you got to the 12th game of the season.
That's right.
So I do think Vanderbilt's got some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Is their offensive line going to be improved at all from last year? And is their defense going to actually stop anybody this year so their offense doesn't have to put up over 30 points in a game to get a victory?
That's right. Big Orange, thank you so much for tuning in, man. We see you. Is Malik Foreman really joining the show? Yes, next week. Had a work thing come up tonight. Life happens. He understands. He called me about an hour before the show, said he wasn't going to be able to make it. So I'm sorry for the false thumbnail there. But it was very much last minute hour. And but he will be joining next week. We'll have a whole new post about that, and we look forward to having him on the show. It's gonna be a fun time. So we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, dude, it is awesome. I'm sorry to give y'all the false hope for this week, but yeah, man, he's gonna be here next week. He's excited about it. He already seen some of the questions that we want to ask him. He's approved some of them, I guess. But it's gonna be a good time, man. It's gonna be very much a lot of fun. But right here, right now, we are predicting Vanderbilt's schedule. I had them going 6-6. Michael, the $1 million question is the defense for Vanderbilt. I think offense, you'll get production because the guy you got at quarterback, I don't think he's all conference quarterback by any means, but he's a playmaker, right? He's going to make plays. With that, he's going to make mistakes too, but is the defense going to take some pressure off of him? With that being said, Michael, what do you have Vanderbilt going this year?
So they do start off with a win in week 1 against Charleston Southern. I think everybody can predict that one. I don't see a letdown game for Vanderbilt like they did against UNLV a couple of years ago. So got a win against Charleston Southern. I do think that they go to Blacksburg, Virginia. They get a win against Virginia Tech. I mean, Virginia Tech since the older Beamer, since he retired, Shane Beamer's dad retired from Virginia Tech. It's just kind of been a downward spiral for Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. So I do have a win.
Bad year last year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Ever since they lost the coach. So back when we did the battle at Bristol real quick, they had a coach that was decent. I can't remember his name, but I felt like he had that program going in the up and up, but he went backwards one year and they just fired him outright. And ever since then, I feel like Virginia Tech's just not been on the right track. I don't know. But they definitely are not helping the ACC's Caper's tough schedules. I'm telling you that right now. They're terrible.
Yep, exactly. So South Carolina in week 3 on the road at South Carolina. Even though I am not a Shane Beamer fan, I'm a South Carolina believer this year. Mm-hmm. I'm a Lenore Sellers believer this year. And I think South Carolina does whatever they want to in this game. And they come out, Vanderbilt comes out with a loss in this game because once again, I do think Vanderbilt's going to put up some points, but also South Carolina's got a decent defense, and I don't know if Vanderbilt's going to be able to stop Lenore Sellers in that offense this year.
That's right.
So week 3 loss to South Carolina. Georgia State. This is a revenge game for Vanderbilt from last year, who traveled to Georgia State and lost last year. So as good as Vanderbilt's season was, beating Alabama, beating some of these other teams that it wasn't expected, they lost to Georgia State. So they finished the regular season 6-6 and could have had 7-5 on the season. And didn't they win their bowl game? So you could have finished off 8-5 on a year if you're Vanderbilt.
Yeah, could have.
That looks, even though it's just one game, that looks a lot better than the 7-6 that Vanderbilt actually went last year. They do end up getting a win against Georgia State this season, though. Utah State in week 5, that's also a win. So I'm right on line with you, Skylar. I've got them starting off the season 4-1 going into this Bama game.
I think that's the right number.
Yeah, I agree with
All
you.
right, so top 15 showdown in T-Town for Alabama.
Top 25.
Sorry, I had to respond back to Big Orange. He was arguing with himself, but it was Rashawn Golden that did the bird flip to Alabama.
Yeah.
He thought it was Malik Foreman at first, and it made me think, I'm like, was it? And so, no, it was Rashawn Golden.
Rashawn Golden.
I was like, Malik wouldn't do that. That's my boy. Maybe he would. I don't know. It is Bama, dude. I don't know. So, no. All right, Bama, top 15 showdown, Vanderbilt.
Yeah, they get a loss.
Oh, come on, dude. Be fun.
It doesn't matter who's at quarterback for Alabama. You said it. You hit the nail on the head with it. If Kalen DeBoer loses to Vanderbilt for a second year and lose to them at home,
I would love nothing more, brother.
It doesn't matter what else he does on the season. Bama is firing him. So no, Alabama's not going to lose that game. LSU in Nashville.
I'm telling you.
Off of a bye week for Vanderbilt.
Come on.
Let me see. Who's LSU have?
Come on. Fire Brian Kelly. Give him that $80 million buyout.
So LSU has South Carolina the week before playing LSU. That game is at home. Or the week before playing Vanderbilt. And that game's at home for LSU. I'm gonna give LSU the win.
Yeah, all right.
In that one.
That's what I thought. I wanted to,
because I'm gonna wait till we get to LSU and South Carolina before I say who I think is gonna win that LSU South Carolina game. But I think it's gonna be a very tough game for LSU the week before playing Vanderbilt, and they're not gonna have a letdown game against Vanderbilt after that. Missouri the week after playing LSU. I have a lot of questions around Missouri this season because of what they have lost. I also have questions around Missouri's program. Eli Drinkwitz, he doesn't get on my nerves as much as he used to. Maybe that's because Tennessee and Missouri hadn't played in a couple of seasons. But I do think that Missouri is still a little bit better team overall than Vanderbilt is. So I've got Missouri coming to Nashville and winning that game. Texas. Okay. Yeah, this one's not going to be close. Vanderbilt's going to get run by Texas.
Okay, so the wheels are falling off for Vanderbilt.
Auburn in Nashville. I happen to be a believer in Auburn this year as well. But I think this game is going to be super, super close. It just seems like, especially over the last couple of years when Auburn and Vanderbilt have played, that it's always been a close game. And Vanderbilt beat Auburn last year, did they not? I think so. Yeah. I think they went. They did. They went on the road to Auburn and won last year. I do think that Auburn in this one gets a close victory. Vanderbilt has a bye week after that one. Kentucky comes to town, and this is where, for 1 week anyway, Vanderbilt gets back on the right track. They get a win against Kentucky. I've already been on record. This is the game that Mark Stoops gets fired after. And then last week of the season, they take a big L to Tennessee.
It's fine. Rhonda said revenge game. Absolutely. So you've got Vanderbilt finishing the season 5-7.
I've got them 5-7 this year.
What is your ceiling and floor for Vanderbilt?
So I'll start with my ceiling. I could possibly see a win against South Carolina, but I don't know on that one.
Okay.
I'm going to say the South Carolina is a guaranteed loss. I'm actually going to say that LSU game could be intriguing and Vanderbilt pulls one out against LSU.
Right.
I think they went down to Baton Rouge last year and played them very tough there. So I could see a win against LSU. That gives you 6 wins. I could see a win against Missouri. That brings you up to 7. And I could see a win against Auburn. So I've got 8-4 as the ceiling as well, just like you do.
Right on.
As far as the floor, you've got to remember this is Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Vanderbilt's floor at 2-10 this year.
No shot.
Now,
Charleston Southern, Georgia State, Utah State.
This is wheels completely falling off.
So they lose to Georgia State.
Yeah. This is
only Tennessee loses to Georgia State.
Well, Vanderbilt did last year.
They did. I remember that actually. All right.
Yeah. Went on the road to Georgia State and got beat.
Hey, Rhonda brings up a good point though. I don't even have to read it, but I will for our listeners. Yeah. You know, Vandy home games are like home games for the visitors.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why I love playing. I actually love, as a Tennessee fan, going to Vanderbilt and playing.
Neyland Jr.
There's nothing like taking over somebody else's stadium when it's in your own state and everything. And like, let's just be honest. Tennessee runs Tennessee. So like when you go to Nashville, it's like all the fans that don't get to travel to Knoxville to see the games in England, they're like, bet we'll go to Vanderbilt where the tickets are way cheaper anyways. And we'll wear our orange and we'll check your Nashville. Dude, that needs to happen, by the way, which there was a lot of traction of it happening last year. Because of, our fans, they like to trash talk. What fan doesn't? But I'm looking forward for the day that happens. Golly.
But 2-10 on the season. Absolute floor, I don't see it happening. This is just wheels completely falling off. Worst case scenario happens for Vanderbilt. I do think that you beat Charleston Southern and you beat Utah State. But as far as everybody else on this schedule, I could absolutely see a loss to any one of them. If the wheels fall off for Vanderbilt. So I've got 2-10 as the floor because, as I said before, this is Vanderbilt. So 2-10 is the floor. I've got 5-7 as my actual prediction. My ceiling is 8-4. So I've actually got 3 games of wiggle room where Skylar's got 2 games there. I do want to make a comment about, we're talking about Diego Pavia, just briefly, some of the comments he said about running the state of Tennessee. Does he not realize?
Valid.
Does he not realize that Vanderbilt's not even the second best team in the state of Tennessee?
Is it MTSU or Memphis?
It's Memphis.
Oh, okay, right.
Memphis is the second best. Now, I would say Vanderbilt is better than MTSU because they beat them head to head a couple of times, even in Vanderbilt's worst years.
MTSU's had some good years though.
They have, but it just so happens that pretty much each time that they play, Vanderbilt does get the best of MTSU. But yeah, Vanderbilt's not even the second best team in the state of Tennessee. It's Memphis.
Hey. Anchor up. All right. Let's see. I guess that brings us to our final prediction segment. So you want to let us know who our segment 3 sponsor is, and then we'll get on to our second prediction of the night and our final segment of the show.
Yeah, I'll do that. You already know our segment 3 sponsor. It is Kaizen Painting. Do you want a colorful life? Kaizen is a painting and drywall company that provides residential, commercial, exterior, and interior services. At Kaizen Painting, we understand the importance of a beautifully painted home and properly installed and repaired drywall. We're here to bring your vision to life. We care about providing you with a personalized, efficient, and quality service. If you live in Knoxville and surroundings, contact us for a free estimate at kaizenpainting.com. Color your life the Kaizen way.
So, Logan, yes, he did say that he's not scared of kneeling. Rhonda, I'm actually going to disagree with you. Rhonda says he can't be too smart to come out with that. His coach wasn't happy either. I am actually going to say his coach probably encouraged him to say something like that.
I think I would agree with you.
I think I hate to say like losing coach, but maybe a coach on the rise that needs somebody to talk about them in the offseason. Because, like, let's be honest, nobody talks about Vanderbilt in the offseason.
No.
Nobody. Not even Vanderbilt fans. So his coach and Diego obviously know the personality that he is. And when you back it up, look, let me be the first to say, talk your talk. Just know when you fall, people are going to laugh at you, and you just got to be able to handle that. You got to eat it. But I'm going to assume that this was a play to get clicks, and they played it. And so, yeah, it did put a huge target on the back, but I think that's exactly what they want. They want people to talk about them because nobody else.
They got
would.
us. They got us to talk about them. We spent a whole
They got
segment
everybody.
a couple weeks ago.
They got everybody to talk about it. And you want to know why people are talking about it? Because it's baloney.
Yep.
I mean, so it's fine. I'm gonna keep letting the team do the talking on the field. But I just love when people like to talk smack about how chippy Tennessee is when we all know that like the other teams are always the ones to start it. And like you've seen this over and over and over again with Tennessee teams when they're playing like a UT Martin or ETSU, or who did we play that went after Cedric Tillman's ankles? Was it Akron?
It was Akron.
Like the dirty little plays like that fire us up and want to protect our players, and then they make us look like the bad guy because we're just trying to defend ourselves. And also, like in Akron's case, kind of like remind them, like, dude, you're nothing. Like, we're paying you $2 million to be here today to kick your butt. So yeah, Rhonda, you're 100%. Logan says, I wish Vandy was a blackout game and we give him the Will Levis stream. And then the Tennessee Titans still thought it was a grand idea to pick Will Levis over Hendon Hooker after that. That is...
How are they feeling now?
Bro, hey, they got Cam Ward, and in their minds, that made up for everything. But we're going to move on.
We digress on that. So.
I can't digress, bro. All the memories are coming back. It was such a nightmare for Will Levis. I loved it.
You know what's actually funny? I rewatched that game the other day from 2022.
Dude,
that Tennessee Kentucky game.
Nico Slaughter's hit on that kid. And was it Juju Mitchell?
Yeah.
Jawan Mitchell?
Yeah, Jawan Mitchell.
Boy is slow as crap with that ball in his hand, but I mean, my God. All right. Anyways, Rhonda said, don't get me started. Don't get me. You must be a Titans fan up in here. I'm so sorry.
So Oklahoma
local radio. Yeah, sorry. I'm on a tangent.
No,
I can't stop thinking. All right, lock in. Oklahoma. Big year for Brent Venables. Obviously, one of the coaches, in my opinion, it's probably the most talked about on the hot seat this year. Or am I wrong or no?
I won't say the hot seat, but I think he's got the most pressure on him. Because in my opinion, pressure and hot seat are two completely different things.
In a way.
All right, so let me give you an example. Would you say Josh Heupel is on the hot seat for this season?
No.
Would you say he has a lot of pressure on him?
No.
I would.
Here's a better example. Brian Kelly. Is he on the hot seat this year? No. Does he have a lot of pressure? Absolutely.
And that's where I disagree. I think he does.
What?
I think that's one of the situations where he's got a lot of pressure and he's also on the hot seat.
All right.
So let me give you another example then. Kalen DeBoer, as of right now, is he on the hot seat?
No. Does he have a lot of pressure? Yes. That's valid.
Yeah. So
that's exact same as Brian Kelly. What do you mean?
No, I think that Brian Kelly is on the hot seat. I really do. I really think he is.
Okay.
But Brent Venables to me falls in that category, just like Kalen DeBoer, that I think he's got a lot of pressure. I won't say he's on the hot seat right now.
Okay. All right. Well, Oklahoma. I went first last time, so brother, I'm gonna let you take the reins here and see what your thoughts are on Oklahoma. New quarterback.
Yeah. Before we get to that, John Mateer, transfer from Washington State. He's got a lot of talent. How's he gonna fit in this offense, this scheme, and all that?
Well, new offensive coordinator too, right?
Yeah, new offensive coordinator. How's he gonna fit there? Yet to be seen. But I do think he's a very talented quarterback. We could see a very good year from Oklahoma this year. They're gonna have a good defense. They always do. Brent Venables is a defensive minded head coach.
Ask Alabama.
Very true.
Sorry.
But yeah, Oklahoma this year, they're going to have talent. But what are they going to be able to do with that talent this year? That's what remains to be seen. And my biggest question here is Brent Venables going to get in the way of his team the way that he has in the past? So with that, Illinois State in week 1. That's going to be a win. We're going to see Oklahoma get a win in that game. Michigan in week 2. This game is at home. This is one of those games that's a non-conference game that I think is going to tell a lot about a team's season. I think this game is going to tell a lot about Michigan's season. It's going to tell a lot about Oklahoma's season. I don't know exactly what Michigan has, but here's what I will say. Michigan is going to be without their head coach in this game. He's suspended for the first 3 games of the season.
3 or 4, yeah.
Now with John Harbaugh, when that happened, it didn't matter. But they also played teams. They played teams with no pulse.
And was it Sharon Moore the interim during that time when
he was?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Who's the interim going to be in this game for Michigan? I'm not sure. I'm going to give the home field advantage and the win to Oklahoma close. Temple, week 3 of the season at Temple. What are we doing? What are we doing at Temple? What are we doing, Oklahoma? Ultimately, Temple's one of the worst teams in FBS, though, and Oklahoma comes out with the win. Auburn, week 4. This, I think, is the for sure turning point in the season. Hey, really appreciate the comment here from Rhonda. Thank you all for the input. Great discussion. Have a great rest of your night. You have a good rest of your night as well, Rhonda. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. Apologies for not having Malik Foreman on tonight. You know, as Skylar,
I'm making him apologize next week. By the way,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
there will be an apology. Yeah,
no, fine.
But no, you know, we all know that things come up in life, and unfortunately, he just wasn't able to come tonight. But Auburn at home. I think this is the turning point in the season for both of these teams. Auburn gets a win here, and I think Auburn's on their way to a good season. Same thing for Oklahoma. I happen to be a huge believer in Auburn this year. And you've also got the storyline of former Oklahoma quarterback. Why am I blanking on his name now? Jackson Arnold. Yes. Former Oklahoma quarterback Jackson Arnold coming back to Norman. I think he's going to have a fantastic game, and I think Oklahoma drops this game at home. Kent State.
Is Boomer Sooner going to be pissed?
Yes, they will. They definitely will.
Oh, look, Oklahoma, again, last year, they're not used to losing at home, guys. Like, they are dominant at home. And so last year, losing as much as they did at home was kind of a shock to the senses for their fans. So if they lose to their quarterback, oh God, I cannot look. Oh, I love it. What a pick. I love this. Go on with Kent State.
Yeah. Kent State, you know, another one of the teams. They're one of the worst in FBS. Oklahoma gets a win there. Going into the State Fair against Texas in Dallas. Ultimately, Texas is a better team. This game's going to be close. It always is. But Texas is going to win this game. At South Carolina on the 18th of October. I've already mentioned I'm a huge believer in South Carolina this year. And we know as Tennessee fans how hard it is to go into Williams-Brice Stadium and get a win. I'm not sure if this game is a night game. Let me look. I'm actually on Oklahoma's website. So this game, it looks like, is going to be a noon game. It's going to be either a noon or 11 o'clock game against South Carolina. So that does change things slightly because, you know, we all know the Williams-Brice at night, that's a difficult place to play. It's very, very difficult. It's still difficult at noon, though, and I think that South Carolina gets a win in that game. Ole Miss. I don't know a whole lot about Ole Miss this year. I do know that, you know, obviously Jackson Dart is gone. I think that Lane Kiffin is going to have good quarterback play. I know, he brought in a bunch of transfers once again this season. Oklahoma does get this game at home. And I think this is a spot where Lane Kiffin gives one up, and I think that Oklahoma sneaks out a win in this one. Tennessee on the road. This is the end of a pretty difficult stretch for Oklahoma. You got Texas in Dallas, and then you go on the road to South Carolina before playing against Ole Miss at home. And I'm curious what Oklahoma's going to have at this point in the season. And I think that Tennessee, the Neyland effect is going to be real in this one. This is going to be a flex game, which means that it's either going to be afternoon or night. I've got a feeling it's going to be a night game. I'm not going to say that it's going to be the game of the week on ABC, but I think you're going to see this one on ESPN or ESPN2 at night. And that's going to have a lot to do with it. I think that Tennessee gets a win in this game. Bye week before traveling to Alabama. You're not going to see 2 years worth of magic in this game. Alabama's going to get a win against Oklahoma. Missouri at home on November the 22nd. Intriguing game here to me because it's a lot of unknowns for both of these teams. I do think there's a few more unknowns for Missouri right now than it is at Oklahoma. I've got Oklahoma getting a win over Missouri in this game.
Okay.
Last game of the season, traveling to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I think both of these teams are kind of on the same wavelength as far as talent, as far as the way their season needs to go, as far as what kind of success they need to have. I think good old cold beer there, Arkansas.
Hey, that's how they end the year, bro. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I've got Oklahoma this season going 6-6.
Think it might be the game of the week just because it's Oklahoma's first time coming to face King Josh at his home turf, and it'll definitely have headline. I think it will be.
So let me just take a look. I've actually got the entire SEC schedule for that week
for November 1st. November 1st.
For November 1st. I'm gonna say it's not gonna be the game of the week because you've got Florida, Georgia.
Well,
you also got South Carolina, Ole Miss that weekend.
But it also depends on how these teams are doing. If Oklahoma beats Auburn and South Carolina, and their only losses to like Texas and Tennessee, kind of vice versa, like their only losses to like maybe Georgia or Alabama, and they're 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, whatever it is at that point. Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of differences in the game of the week at that point. But yeah, I think the storyline's still going to be the same though. All right. You have Oklahoma going 6-6.
Yep.
With that being said, in my opinion, this is a fireable season for Brent Venables. If he goes 6-6 again, his fan base will not tolerate this. What is your ceiling and floor with Oklahoma?
So my ceiling for Oklahoma this year, and this is if Brent Venables decides.
It's crazy you have them going 6-6. Sorry. With a win on Michigan, too. Like that. Okay.
If that game against Michigan was later in the season, I think that would chalk that up as a loss. But I do think being without your head coach there, like Michigan is going to be, that's going to play a big factor in that game. So my ceiling for this Oklahoma team, and I think they can reach this ceiling as long as Brent Venables does not get in his team's way, does not get in his offensive coordinator's way. This is what, for me, Oklahoma's success this year hinges on Brent Venables giving up the total control type role that he has played in years past, especially last year, as far as he wants complete control of his team, including the offense. Stick to what you're strong at, which is defense. Let your offensive coordinator do his job. And I think Oklahoma has success this year. I think that starts with they get a win against Auburn, meaning that they start the season off 5-0 heading into that game against Texas and Dallas. I think that game's going to be a loss for Oklahoma regardless. I think you could travel to South Carolina and get a win in that one. And you start your season off at 7-1 heading into Knoxville. I think they can get a win against Tennessee in Knoxville as well if they've got that kind of success. Alabama, I've got chalked up as a loss. And I think they could finish the season off with a win against Arkansas. And my absolute ceiling, This is if everything goes right for Oklahoma. I've got them sitting at 10-2, knocking on the door of a playoff at the end of the season.
With a huge help of their defense, 100%, and just
Yes,
improvement on the offensive side of the ball.
absolutely. My floor for Oklahoma this year, 3-9.
Yeah, see, and that's where that's Oklahoma. This is how you know Oklahoma's just question marks everywhere. Because of that wide range, a 3-9 to 10-2, you just don't know with the changes that they made, is it going to work or not? So we're kind of purely guessing here. And it's not like we follow these teams the way we follow our team, so we really don't know to the exact extent like what their offense is looking like right now. We know the defense is going to be good because that's just how Brent Venables is. But like, yeah, 3-9 to 10-2, and you're going with a safe 6-6.
So, we talked about last week. I've got a couple of teams that I think could have a very high ceiling and a very low floor. Oklahoma, and I have not made a prediction for every single team, but I would argue that Oklahoma's got the biggest ceiling and the lowest floor for me this season.
Yeah, I think the biggest. Yeah, right on. Well, all right, White. I'm gonna get on with mine. I think Oklahoma this year is going to separate our predictions dramatically. I think me and you kind of view Oklahoma a lot differently, but that's not a bad thing because I think we view them the same in a lot of ways. But I think I just have some of them 50-50 games going a little bit more fortune for Oklahoma. And here's kind of what I am talking about. Now, obviously, they start the year off with Illinois State. Michigan, I am also going to give them the win, but not in the ways that you described. I think this has nothing to do with the head coach not being there. I think this has everything to do with this is a defensive battle game. Michigan, tough defense. Oklahoma, tough defense. I think right now, even with the changes that I don't know about in Oklahoma, I think they've made more offensive changes for the better than I think I know about Michigan. So this is also a home game, or is it neutral site?
No, this is you talking about Temple?
No, I'm talking about Michigan.
Oh, Michigan. No, that's a home game for Oklahoma. It's
right
in
on.
Norman.
Okay, so a home game for for Oklahoma against Michigan. I'm going to give Oklahoma the win, purely based off defense. Right, that's kind of how I'm picking that game. At Temple, yes, I'm giving them the win. Hosting Auburn, yes, the storylines are going to be absurd. Jackson Arnold coming into town. Hugh Freeze ain't that guy. I'm giving Oklahoma the win there as well. Going to Kent State, you get the dub there. This is what I can see. You have the turnaround that Brent Venables needed. You're going into Texas, Red River rivalry, undefeated, 5-0. You have your fans locked in the way you need. You've got Texas is probably going to be right there with you. And this is all you could ask for as an Oklahoma fan. I think they do have the potential, if they start the year like this, depending on what it looks like, they do have the potential to knock off Texas, not because of talent. I don't think they're there yet, but because of the rivalry itself. I can't predict it, so it's a loss. But I think this is still all you could ask for Oklahoma. Now, they're going to say, heck no, our season's toast if we don't beat Texas. And, I hear you, but Ohio State fans said that last year too, and they still won the Natty. I'm not saying that you're going to win the Natty, but I'm just saying there's more to live for than one game. And I still think that this can count as a success for Brent Venables, and you can still be on that upward trajectory that you want to be on. At South Carolina, fortunately, with all that fancy feathery talk, I'm going to give you your second L in the row right there. Being at South Carolina, I think that's a tough game, and you come off a very emotional game against Texas. However that gets played, I still think South Carolina will get the better end of you, but you got Ole Miss there. I'm actually going to give you the win against Ole Miss. I have no idea who's coming in for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are going to actually take a step back this year. I agree with you on that. Now, I just think the defense is going to hold Ole Miss in check at home, maybe a night game here. So I'm going to give Oklahoma the dub there. They start out 6-2 going into the final third of the season. And then this is where it would set up a really good storyline to go at Tennessee. Tennessee, I could very much see them being 6-2 at this point too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or if the bye falls in a funny way, I'm not looking at their schedule, but they might be like 5-2 or 7-2. I don't know. But either way, playing at Tennessee, I'm going to show the boys some love here. I think we get the dub against Oklahoma for the second year in a row. I think as good as Oklahoma's defense is, I have that much faith in Tennessee's defense that I think they're going to be better
So
than
you need to
Oklahoma's
swap
defense.
that around then. You gave Oklahoma the win on that one.
You're right. I said win and hit the W. Sorry. And the fact that tab is orange. I want to point that out, by the way. That tab is orange on the thing. You know what I'm talking about. They don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. So, like, my bad. I seen orange. I seen the W. My fault. So, yes, thank you for that catch. I'm giving Tennessee the dub. I said it right, though. So, if you're listening, that's all you need to hear. I think Tennessee's defense is going to be elite this year, just like they were last year. And I think it's all but guaranteed you're getting more production from the quarterback spot, no matter who it is.
Agreed.
Here's the catch. You can't fall off on the run game.
Agreed.
So I'm giving Tennessee the dub there. Alabama in the revenge game. I mean, come on. That's a loss. Going to T-Town, you ain't getting that. You ain't getting that one. Missouri, though. Missouri's a tricky team. I still think Oklahoma has a lot to play for. And at this point, Brent Venables has a lot to play for and coach for. And so I'm going to give the dub to Oklahoma, to Missouri. And I think they're going to finish the year with a dub against Arkansas and Oklahoma 8-4 on their season and their second year in the SEC. This is why I said I think we have dramatic differences here. I think their ceiling here. I think their ceiling is still only 9-3. And the reason why is I think maybe they beat South Carolina or maybe they beat South Carolina and Texas or Tennessee, but they lose to Michigan or something. Like, I don't think it's in the cards for them to go any better than 9-3. In my humble opinion. I think regardless, Texas is going to be tough. Tennessee's going to be tough. Alabama's going to be tough. Oh, by the way, you're on the road on two of those and mutual site at one of them. South Carolina's going to be tough. You're on the road on that one. And then I'm not going to discredit Arkansas in this matchup, at least. Arkansas on the road at Arkansas. Who knows what they're playing for at that point in the end of the year? I don't know. I'm not going to discredit that. So I think ceiling for Oklahoma's 9-3. I do think the floor is 6-6. And if they go 6-6, yeah, it's going to be some hard conversations in Norman.
So you don't think that they go any worse than 6-6?
No, I think regardless, they beat Illinois State, Kent State. I think they beat Temple. I think they, at that point, you go to your 50-50 matchups, and I think they find 3 out of 7 games. I think they find 3, maybe win just under half of them.
And you know what? I think I agree with you on that. I don't think that they go worse than 6-6. This is Oklahoma that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I also, that's why I've got their floor at 3-9.
Well, you got their floor at 3-9. You got their, and per the definition, floor, it doesn't work out. They lose to Michigan. They lose to Auburn. They're going to Texas. They lose to Texas. At this point, is Venables even still there? Do they have a lot to play for? And then they could lose to South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee. They could literally fall off the road. I could see that.
But this is Oklahoma that we're talking about, and I agree with you. I think that they find some way to pull out 6 games somewhere.
I think they made too many moves in the offseason to not. So I think no worse than 6-6, no better than 9-3. That's kind of a tight window, but that's kind of how dead locked in I am on Oklahoma and the field I have around that program. 8-4. That's my final call, and that is going to do it for this episode of the Vol Fanatics Show. We appreciate you guys being tuned in, locked in, as always. Next week.
So real quick before we talk about next week, I do want to pull this comment from Logan here. Who fills James Pierce Jr.'s shoes? Because you were talking about, you think that Tennessee's defense is going to be elite this year.
Yes.
I think Tennessee's defense is going to be elite this year. My answer for who fills James Pierce Jr.'s shoes, it's a guy that, if you hadn't checked out the website, check that out. The article that I posted earlier this week, I think it's Joshua Josephs.
It is Joshua Josephs. But to take that even a step further, it's not just one guy.
No, it's not.
Who fills James Pierce's shoes? It's 2 or 3 guys.
The answer is yes. Who fills James Pierce Jr.'s shoes?
It's Tyree West. It's all these guys, right? They got to step in, and they've got to wreak havoc, because I think this defense is going to be more lethal. Think about it's funny that we talk about, is it the 85 or 86 Bears? They didn't really have a superstar. They didn't really have they had some great players. they didn't have like a one guy that you knew was getting paid more than everybody else on that team type player. And they were the best defense statistically at the time. Like, I mean, they just nobody could beat that. And I think that kind of effect is what you could see on Tennessee's defense this year. You take away James Pierce Jr., you love to have him, but now you don't have that superstar on the D-line. So now it's just one-on-one all the way across the board. And I like our guys' chances in one-on-ones. So
I completely agree with you there. Everything that you just said, I agree.
Come on now.
Let's talk about next week for just a minute. So first,
is he coming? Is he coming? Do we have it confirmed?
I don't know. You're the one that's talked to him.
I think so. To be continued.
But no, about next week though. First off, we are moving it up a day. Skylar and I actually have an important meeting on Thursday of next week with a potential sponsor for the podcast on Thursday. So it is likely that both of us will be back by the time, we hit that 8 o'clock Eastern time mark, but we don't want to rush it and risk having to either not do the podcast for a week or push it back to where, it's 9, 10 o'clock before we're doing it. So the podcast next week will be on Wednesday night, same time, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern time. That's the first bit of news for that. Malik Foreman is scheduled to be on for next week.
Yeah, I kind of told him Thursday, but I'll rearrange. Logan, back to this comment. We just had this live last week. Go check out our defensive line preview. Go check it out. I think you'll get some of the answers that you're looking for. But yes, I think we will have Malik Foreman on next week. I will reconfirm and make sure that Wednesday night works for him. And then we'll go from there and just follow the pages, follow the socials. Y'all see it right here down here at the bottom of the screen. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Yeah. And then I really don't have anything else. Michael, you got anything?
Do we want to decide which position group and which team we want to talk about next week before we close out?
Logan said he found us on Spotify. Dude, it's not magic. I promise. We're there.
Yeah.
We're going back defense because we like to alternate this. I think we just move it back a step and go linebackers. What do you think?
It's fine by me. Linebackers.
I mean, we talked about them a little bit tonight because we're pretty excited about that group, but I think we go linebackers next week. Should be a nice, short, sweet.
Linebacker group, as far as our one schedule prediction next week, I'm thinking we take a good old cold beer. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking them or Auburn. So yeah, like cold beer.
Yeah.
Right on.
So Arkansas next week, linebackers next week, Malik Foreman next week.
I was so excited about having him on tonight. And he knew that, but it's okay. Yeah. Life happens, and we will get it in.
I told my wife whenever I saw your name on the phone call, I said, this could be one of three things. Either one, Malik Foreman is not able to come on tonight. Number two, Skylar just got a work call and is not going to be able to come on the show tonight.
Which happened last night. That was a real thing. So, yeah, I had 2 calls up till 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday. So, yeah, that's a good answer.
Number 3, because I was putting my son Anderson down. Where in the crap are you, man? I'm the first one on tonight, which never happens.
Which did still happen, but I didn't call you for that. But yeah, Michael, man, I appreciate you as always. I appreciate the listeners in the chat box, man. We appreciate y'all. Y'all were tuned in. Logan, my guy, was here the entire show. Said we need to get Al Wilson on here, man. Man, maybe one day I'll actually have a relationship with that guy. But dude, he's
So he did have a question earlier that we just didn't get to about. Do we have any other players in the back pocket? Stay tuned, brother. We might. Not at the moment, but maybe.
I mean, we have nothing planned, but I'm kind of I shoot from the hip. That's kind of how I am. No, I'm joking. No, I like it being organic though. So like meeting with Malik, like organically, got introduced to him. We kind of hit it off, played some golf. It was great. And that's how that relationship kicked off. So I never really reached out to bring anybody on. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And I will say this too, Logan, not saying that he will come on with us, but Todd Kelly Jr. is a friend of the podcast as well. So, and that's another one of those organic type things that Skylar is got the pleasure of having up there in Knoxville. I live in little old Cornersville, 4 hours away from Knoxville.
Come on, big dog.
I don't get those type of relationships.
Come on, big dog. Yeah, man, it'll be fun. You just stay tuned to the show. The way you can help is by following us on everything, YouTube, Facebook. Grow the channel, because the more attraction we bring to the show, the more they're gonna want to be on the show. So y'all keep blowing it up. We appreciate y'all. And yes, TKJ is my dog. And so with that being said, I hope you have a great night, and go Vols. Let's get it.